Okay, number 8 wants you to find the symmetry of r equals 4 cosine theta. In the directions, it specifies that you have to prove the symmetry by using all 6 tests if necessary. So let's real quick go through all the 6 tests. So if you want to see if it's symmetric to theta equals pi over 2, first you check negative r, negative theta. If you get the same thing, it's symmetric. And if that doesn't work, you check r and you check pi minus theta. If you are going to check for the polar axis, you would put r and negative theta in, and the other choice would be negative r and pi minus theta. And if you're checking for the pole, you would do r and pi, sorry, let's do the first one first. You would do the negative r and positive theta. And if that doesn't work, you check positive r and pi plus theta. So that is the memorization that you have to do, and you're basically going to have to show you know how to do that on the test. No guessing going on. So first we have r equals 4 cosine theta. So just in order, if I'm checking for theta equals pi over 2, so I'll just, like, I want to specify that's what I'm doing. So theta equals pi over 2. All right, so I'm going to do that one. The first thing I would check is negative r, negative theta. So I'd write that down, and then I would say that that would be negative r equals 4 cosine negative theta, but cosine negative theta is just cosine theta. So if negative r equals 4 cosine theta, or r equals negative 4 cosine theta, so that part would be a no. But then I check r and pi minus theta, and so I get r equals 4 times cosine pi cosine theta plus sine pi sine theta. So that is equal to 4, and the cosine of pi is negative 1. So I have negative cosine theta out in front, not the angle, plus the sine of pi is 0, so plus 0. So I get 4, r equals 4, negative 4 cosine theta. So that's also a no. So I've checked both theta equal pi over 2, and so theta equals pi over 2 is a no. Now I am going to check for the polar axis. So the first thing I do for that is check r negative theta. So that would be r equals 4 cosine negative theta. And does that equal 4? The cosine negative theta is just cosine theta, so that equals 4 cosine theta. So that one is a yes right away. If you get a yes, you don't have to do the part B. If you get a no, you have to do the part B. So the pole is my last one. I would do negative r positive theta first. So I would get negative 4 equals 4 cosine theta, and so negative r, sorry. So r is negative 4 cosine theta, so that is a no for that. And then I would check positive r and pi plus theta. This is the pi plus theta one, the pole. So it would be r equals 4 times the cosine of pi cosine of theta minus the sine of pi sine of theta. So that's r equals 4, negative 1 cosine theta minus 0. So I get r equals negative 4 cosine theta. So that is a no. So both of those were no, so pole is no. So it's symmetric to the polar axis. Okay, let's go on to number 9. Number 9 asks the same thing, only gives you r equals 6 cosine 2 theta. Now this 2 theta changes things, so be careful and do this carefully. So the first thing I'm going to do is theta equals pi over 2. So that would be negative r, negative theta first, which is negative r equals 6 cosine of negative 2 theta. So r equals negative 6 cosine theta. So that's a no. So now I'm going to check r and pi minus theta. So it would be r equals 6 cosine 2 pi cosine 2 theta minus sine, right, because it's minus, yeah, sine 2 pi sine 2 theta. So you get r equals 6. Cosine of 2 pi is 1. So I just have cosine of 2 theta. And sine of 2 pi is 0, so plus 0. So I get r equals 6 cosine 2 theta. So that is a yes. All right, so I got a yes for that. Let's go to the polar axis, which would be r negative theta. So in this case, I would get r equals 6 cosine negative 2 theta. And, so that means r equals, and the negative would just go away, 6 cosine 2 theta. So this is a yes. So now it's both the theta equals pi over 2 and the polar axis. So we have one more to check to see if it's all three. The pole, which would be negative r and theta. So you would say negative r equals 6 cosine 2 theta, which is r equals negative 6 cosine 2 theta. So that's a no. Then I check r and I check pi plus theta. So I get r equals 6 cosine 2 pi cosine 2 theta minus sine 2 pi sine 2 theta. And that's r equals 6 times 1 again, times cosine 2 pi. So cosine 2 theta, cosine 2 theta, minus, and sine 2 pi is 0, so minus 0. So you get the same thing, r equals 6 cosine 2 theta. Remember, if you get the same thing back again, then that is symmetry. So yes, so it is this one is symmetric to all three. Theta equals pi over 2, polar axis, and the pole. All right, so that was number 8 and 9.